Welcome to the Build It Better podcast, powered by FRAMECAD. I'm Robert Johnson, and today we are joined. This one's been a lot of fun putting together. We have had some obstacles getting everybody together and getting the right video feed and audio to work, and so this is the way we've done it. And I'm really glad we're finally doing this one. I have with us today Anne Kings, who is a professor emeritus, I believe, and architect,
yes.
And a professor at Orange Coast College. I always want to say Orange County College, but it's Orange Coast, isn't it?
Yes, and emeritus means I've just retired. So
emeritus means that you've got the title, but you're not there anymore.
Yes,
you and I and Joseph know that is really not very descriptive because you're running in and out of that place all the time.
Well, that's slowing down now, but yes.
I call it she's selectively retired.
Yeah, exactly. Got somebody trying to call me from Anaheim, California. It may be somebody trying to join in. We'll see. We also have Joseph Sarafian. You're an architect as well. What is the name of your firm?
So our company's Form Found Design, and I'm also a professor here at Orange Coast College.
Correct. Yeah, and it's great to have you both on. So first, thank you. And I know everybody's had to juggle their schedule to get it. But I really want all these folks that hopefully can join in, and especially the both of you, on because of the exciting things that are happening. As I mentioned to Roseanne, and I probably said many times while we were on our tour and walking around, I was blown away by what was going on and the things that you're doing with FRAMECAD software specifically. But just the other things that you're doing with sustainable living and small homes, and it's just really exciting stuff. Joseph, can you tell us a little bit about the project? You mentioned it to me, and then I saw it on social media overseas. I can't remember what that was. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that project actually emerged from a nonprofit that reached out to our company, and they said, well, we have this big need for housing in Armenia after an earthquake
in
Armenia. So in 1988, there was a large earthquake called the Spitak earthquake. It killed hundreds of thousands of people, and a lot of it was old Soviet construction. It was concrete construction that had been assembled really poorly. They had mixed sand into a lot of the concrete, so a lot of these structures failed. And after that, there was this big need for housing. So countries all over the world sent shipments of food in shipping containers.
Right.
But after the food ran out, they said, we still need a place to live. So they started living in the shipping containers, unfortunately. So even to this day, a lot of the kind of shanty towns and villages still exist with these terrible, deplorable conditions. So a lot of it is educating on kind of life safety and building practices, healthy buildings and things like that. But so the nonprofit reached out to us because in grad school, we had done a lot of concrete research, and they said, could we 3D print concrete houses? And our response was, well, one, that's not really what we do. Two, that's maybe 5 or 6 years off before it's deployable. But have you heard of the FRAMECAD machine? And so we took them to OCC. We introduced them. Roseanne did a demo of the machine, and they were blown away. They sold off on it instantly. And what we told them was, as designers, we're not we're kind of technology agnostic. We don't necessarily rely on one machine to get us going. It doesn't have to just be a robot. It could be a FRAMECAD machine or whatever is applicable to that problem is what we're interested in. So that's kind of where things started. And they said, well, could we print it here in Costa Mesa and then ship it to Armenia? And we find out that's maybe $10,000 just worth of shipping right there.
Correct.
So we found a company in Romania, and they were able to print all of our steel. We found a consultant in Melbourne, Australia, their company was called C Steel in Melbourne, and he took our Revit file, converted it to a FRAMECAD file. We sent that FRAMECAD file to Romania. They printed it, and then we shipped it from Romania through Georgia into Armenia, where it was ready for us when we arrived. And we were able to assemble all of the steel in 3 days for this house. And so the family, we chose, or the nonprofit selected this family because they were not only, very, very poor, but they had the resources and the willpower to kind of rise up and build the house, a lot of it themselves. We were able to get a lot of volunteer labor. We had 10 builders that took a vacation from their day jobs so that they could help build this house for the family. So
very cool.
It was a really great story, and we were able to get it framed rapidly. I told them on day one, this is new technology, not just for Armenia, but globally it's being, this is new. So I told them if something doesn't fit when you're looking at this assembly diagram, if it doesn't fit, it's human error, not machine error. So flip the stud around or the track and see, how does this fit? And then I could, within a day, everyone was picking it up, and we were framing all the walls on the slab itself and tilting them into place right there.
Absolutely amazing. So designed in California, the files were done in Australia, and then printed in Romania and installed in Armenia. It's fascinating stuff. It's really super cool when you look at it like that. How big of a house was this? How many square feet?
It was about 740 square feet. So similar to the size of the sustainability decathlon that we just did. So
thank you. Boy, that was like
it has a kind of attic level that they can also occupy if they need to. And
very, very, very neat. And I saw it, and we will share. And although we're not going to see them, we'll have some images to share when this goes live. And thanks for the softball pitch there for the sustainability conference, because Roseanne, that's one of the things that I'm going to jump into early, so that as we join others that were involved in it, it will already have given some. Tell us a little bit about what went on and your journey with that 2023 Orange County Sustainability Conference. And then I want you to tell me how you did.
Right. Well, it started about 2 years ago. So Joseph and I were both involved from the beginning, more so me in the beginning, and then Joseph was the finisher. So brought in some other aspects of FRAMECAD at the end there. But we were excited to use FRAMECAD to compete with across the country with colleges that were invited to come up with a small sustainable home. Now, we chose to do an ADU because we felt that was the best fit for our market, and that was some of the competition was about market having a market ready product, and so that was something that was important. So that's what drove our footprint and our square footage to fall under California ADU laws to come in efficiently on the cost. But we had students involved in all the planning and design of all aspects of it. We kind of we had to start with something. So we started with some of the work I had been doing on exploring just small footprint ADUs that we could build with our FRAMECAD system. Our goal was to have a market ready kit that we could sell, and use it to sustain our program financially and to promote FRAMECAD in our community so that we could grow a base here, because no one seemed to be doing that. And yet we are struggling here in California with termites, with wildfire, with poor access to good wood product. There's so many challenges here that FRAMECAD can solve. So that was what motivated us. And we ended up taking second overall. We did really well with the construction and the marketability, which, were FRAMECAD's strengths really that helped us with that.
Yeah, it was exciting to watch social media as the awards were going on. I went out, and by the way, thanks, JoJo. Roseanne, you want to tell us a little bit about JoJo real quick?
Yeah, so Jojo is a former student, but he is now an instructor. So I'm happy to say he cycled back into our program when we got FRAMECAD and took all our FRAMECAD classes, which I've written a whole curriculum and program for that. And he did it all, and he started shadowing me to teach when we knew I would be retiring, and none of our full-timers had enough availability to be picking up all the classes. So Jojo's been teaching the classes now, and he was the person who did our FrameCAD file for the decathlon. So
Very
that was
cool.
his trial by fire.
So you're the and forgive me, you're the new Roseanne at
Yeah.
OCC. Okay, so what I started to say is that it was really exciting to watch. Now I went out and spent a couple of hours with you and JoJo, walking around and saw this project, which is, and again, we'll have some photos to share. Absolutely, it was so impressive. And what last night, thinking about today, it dawned on me again that you did planters, you did fence posts. I mean, there were things done with FrameCAD technology and FrameCAD framing that I was like, this is really, really cool stuff. And first of all, congratulations, and it was super exciting, and it is such a cool project. But I want to jump into real quick and tag into something that you just brought up. You are one of the only, if not the only, college that is really focusing on FrameCAD, teaching FrameCAD software, the FrameCAD technology, the things that can be done with the system. Explain that journey and how it started and why.
Sure. It started with I had written curriculum for a design build program, and I was running small projects with students. And we were very frustrated because we couldn't finish a whole project in a semester. And part of the problem was the framing. So, and using unskilled labor and
Sure.
students that were just learning everything. And I saw the tiny house video with FrameCAD with Bryce, and I was just astounded at how quickly that went up and how efficient it was. So I looked into the FrameCAD. That's when I learned about FrameCAD, and we wrote a grant. So we got almost $500,000, and that allowed us to buy a whole factory in a can.
Mm-hmm.
And get all the training and get all the software for 3 years. And we bought a forklift. We had to buy another shipping container. We had to do some other things with that as well, but get the power and everything to run the machine. So we were able to bring that. And part of that was I had to write curriculum. So I wrote all the curriculum to get classes running. And because there weren't any, really. There weren't any that were accessible for us at that point. And
Correct.
even now, it's still a little light out there
Yeah,
finding stuff, especially us. We're scrappy, resourceful, learn by doing program. We're not a well-funded, build 100 of these homes with this kind of operation. So it's a whole different scale than a lot of the more typical FrameCAD customers.
Yeah. Jojo, now you guys you're working, when I spoke with you folks last, you're working on getting that FrameCAD curriculum virtual. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I've been talking with Daryl and with Eric and from FrameCAD, and I think it would suit everyone well if there was some online courses that people from all around could take, and if we could teach it virtually from here, then we could essentially, pick up students from across the country, maybe from other countries. The biggest benefit would be to, be able to help out the rest of the FrameCAD industry,
Yes.
all the business partners and customers from FrameCAD who are in Florida and Arizona and all these other states besides California. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it.
I have been since I left your place. Every place I go, everybody I see, because in the three of you know this, that the real problem that and I'll speak to FrameCAD specifically, that we've had on the design side, on understanding the software. The equipment is relatively simple. It's going through that design phase and getting all of your rough openings and really dialing all that. That's really, although it's been done all around the world, it hasn't. It's not very common here, and there is nobody in that. Although there's a lot of people out there that know AutoCAD, there's not a lot of people that know FrameCAD, and that's been what has held a lot of fabricators back. So I tell everybody I see, these are the people you need to talk to. Get your FrameCAD designers from them. How many students do you have currently, JoJo?
I started the semester with about 20 students. We were really coming up off of a peak with the FrameCAD being a part of a substantial part of our decathlon project. So,
Yeah.
so the students from that summer design build course, they were really interested in what FrameCAD is, and so that's definitely helped a lot. Some advertising for it.
Joseph, you teach architecture.
Yeah.
Do you teach architecture with an integration of FrameCAD? Because again, as you mentioned, architecture really isn't system specific.
Right.
How is it that the integration, where does the discussion of frame? I'm curious because I do a lot of lunch and learns with architectural firms, and I'm curious how you fit in, if you fit in, discussion on FrameCAD.
Yeah, so we use it kind of on a project basis. So in my design build class that I'm teaching, we're integrating real projects into the studio. So the students are not just designing the project, but they're going out and building it. So similar to kind of the idea that Roseanne had for the purpose of the FrameCAD machine here, we would use it in a classroom and they would be outside building and printing and assembling. So for the last semester, I designed my design build class around this sustainability decathlon project, and we were having the students go outside, print the steel, frame with it, and then go back into the classroom and do things like see how the model reacts to various sun patterns and look at the design of it too. Right now, we're actually having the students 3D print portions of the model. So we're printing it, and they're kind of doing the things that we would do in the early phases of the design after the fact. But now it's more about documentation of the project.
So these students, just so I want to make sure everybody's understanding everything that we're saying here, is these students are not only learning, in many cases, architecture, design, they're learning the FrameCAD design, the FrameCAD software. They're also assembling this stuff, aren't they, Roseanne? They actually did a lot of the framing and stood up this structure that you used for the sustainability conference.
That's right. We actually printed out the entire building, and our students were the ones pulling it off the machine and putting them all in panel groups, and then getting other teams to put the panels together. And week by took us a few days, but they put all those panels together and put most of them together. And then that's when we were running out of time. We got the contractor involved, and they did most of the higher up, the putting all the trusses in and getting everything seamed up. But the students worked on every part of it at some point.
Of your team and of those people that were working on it, how many of them had previous carpentry experience?
Just a few. We had a couple of ringers in there that were people who'd had some construction experience, but many of them had never touched any kind of power tool whatsoever. A drill was new to them. But within a few minutes, they could figure. We could show them and they would figure it out, work on it, and then the next couple people would show up the next day who hadn't done it, and they would show the next people. So it was really building a nice community of people helping each other and getting the work done.
And the other piece I'm going to throw in there is, I want to say, if I remember correctly, that the majority were women.
Yes, and that, we don't like focus on that, but
I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. Well,
so, Joseph, I'm going to start with you, and then I'll go back to Roseanne for this one. Infill construct, we especially you folks in LA, Orange County area, it's now becoming much more so with us in Phoenix, is infill building, and we've got this home issue and a home shortage. I know they've been doing ADUs for a while in California. Modular has blown up like mad for me over the last 6-8 months with inquiries about modular builders and things they're doing in modular building. But and then they just recently passed zoning for the ADU to come into the Phoenix, in Maricopa County. And so I would think that what you folks are doing fits right in there with the need for housing and smaller lots, and people trying to come up with other sources of income on their properties and provide housing. Is that a big part of what you focus on, Joseph?
It's becoming that, yeah. And, our office has been doing a lot of ADUs just because that's what everyone's been requesting. And, the state is incentivizing that.
Right.
I know Roseanne's going to have a lot to say on this too. Mm-hmm. And, this topic, when politicians talk about the economy and, how the housing crisis is affecting everybody, a lot of them talk about the demand side, but they don't always talk about the supply side. If we get the supply of housing up, that's going to solve a lot of these issues.
Absolutely.
So yeah, they can play with, interest rates and affect the demand, the supply or the demand. But, if we can increase the supply of housing, I think that's going to make those are the things that'll make the big impact, I think, on.
Yeah, that's industry. Really the key. Yeah. Roseanne, what would you add? Because I know this is really kind of this is your thing. This is your passion. You even live in a tiny home, don't you?
I do, and it's all FRAMECAD, so that was my trial by fire. But no, I see it. I see a couple of avenues. I'm very excited to see what Joseph did with Armenia, the idea of prototyping a structure that could be replicated for
productizing a structure. Right. Yeah.
But I also see, I grew up in Santa Ana, which is one of the blue collar cities in Orange County. And now I'm in Laguna Beach, and it's funny because in Santa Ana, I would see all the old battered trucks of everybody going off to work in the morning. And in Laguna, I see all the Teslas leaving and all those trucks coming into our city. So it's really a funny thing here in Orange County that we have some incredible wealth. I understand we have the wealthiest zip code in the country right now. We have some of the poorest and the neediest. So for me, I guess my heart is down at the lower end there with the working class. And I just see so much building skill in our communities, especially a lot of our immigrant communities here. And I think one of the obstructions to them is just getting that permit and getting a structure up quickly that they can start bringing in their electrician friends and their drywall people and stuff.
Right.
They can, we all know building a home is not rocket science. It takes determination and some learned skills. So I'm hopeful that with FRAMECAD, we can start to get kits out into the community and start to use that to supply our program, but also to get it out in the community as small structures. And ADUs is the most viable option right now.
Yeah, I agree. With the advent of AI, autonomous systems, it is not only do we have a lack of skilled labor in the market right now, but I think those things that I just mentioned are going to make a path for another generation of builders, people that aren't necessarily. There'll be things that'll be taken over that AI and automation will reduce the amount of labor that goes on, the skilled labor, painting, for instance, anything that's very, requires cutting in or cutting of length or things of that nature. And so what I think is cool here, JoJo, is that you're getting people that involved in this that are techie. They're really kind of dealing with the computer side of it. And we've all said it multiple times, printing a building and putting it together. Have you seen an increased interest, JoJo? I mean, through the time that you've been there and gone through the program, has it increased in interest?
Yeah, definitely. We've always done a lot of design build, different types of projects, but I think the light gauge steel and the FRAMECAD system has really shined out in our construction yard that we share with other disciplines, and definitely other students from those disciplines are coming over and checking it out. They're thinking,
right.
Wow. I think Roseanne was saying, one of the students said, "Hey, is this the advanced steel framing class, or how do I get into that class?" Because it was just so perfect and so clean and sharp. It must have been advanced.
Yeah.
In architecture, we have a term, computational design, where you're using computation and coding in the design process. So you're not just using it to necessarily automate, but you're using it to expand the multitude of options that architects come up with, and helping, kind of working with the software as a co-pilot in the design process. There's a company that I've been following recently called Stud.io. Mm-hmm. They're a Boston-based company, and what they're doing is, and they call it computational construction. So they take roll formers and they'll write software for them that allows you to do complex geometry, complex curvature, faceted geometry, with, part of what they call is like the handshake joint, where they take the light gauge steel and they'll have a connection like that allows a lot of different kind of hacking the software almost. Yeah. And so those are the ones that get me excited, because I'm always trying to find the limits of the machine and find where this can go. And I think that's going to be the next step, is how can you realize some of the more complex stuff that you couldn't at all build by hand. You couldn't build with wood framing without a high level of uncertainty.
Yeah. We're doing things. We've really stepped up on our side, our R&D. We're exploring things like radius track, being able to do radius track on our system. And I'm with you. I like the unusual. I like really being able to do things that are out of the norm. So I think that's, again, it's an exciting time, really, and I think there's a lot of interesting things coming. So since you're retired, Roseanne, what's next for you?
Well, I'm working on some projects now, and I guess my trade-off with JoJo and Dean Abernathy, our other faculty member who's not here, is that I would help them with some projects, and in return maybe get to do another project or two, or pay to do the project on our machine, our old, my old machine, I guess.
It'll always be your machine, Roseanne.
That team that is not my machine. But I'm working on some small projects, an ADU, but also multifamily. We've just had a law passed that's going to allow commercial properties to convert to multifamily. So I'm looking at adding some micro units to an infill project in Santa Ana. So I'm hopeful to maybe explore using FRAMECAD for that as well. But I hope to keep a relationship with the program, because one of our problems, part of why I needed to retire, was because I did not have time with a full-time teaching load and administrative duties to be helping people that walked in the door with projects that they wanted to work with us and take our classes and get out. So we were having a kind of we were dropping the ball, basically.
Right.
So I'm hopeful that I can help get a few entrepreneurs going and help, our faculty members get those projects out so that we can connect the dots and not have that gap.
Yeah. Before I let you go, first, thanks for the three of you. I think there's been at least one or two that's tried and had some trouble getting on, and I apologize for that. But before we get away here, Joseph, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
They could email me, joseph@formfounddesign.com.
Okay.
Our website, formfounddesign.com, has all of our contact info, or here at OCC if they come visit. We have, as Roseanne mentioned, not only the FRAMECAD machine, we have a world-class maker space and a lot of technology that the community can use. So, it's an amazing
place. It's worth the tour and the discussion, because if you're not passionate about stuff, just seeing the things that you guys are doing down there, really is exciting.
We have more technology than most universities.
Absolutely.
Architecture programs.
Absolutely.
I wanted to give a shout out about Joseph too, because we're talking about FRAMECAD today, but he also is our prime person working with our KUKA robots and really exploring a lot of the software. He's been kind of the maverick there. So I just wanted to let you know that we have other things going here.
Kind of a virtual fist bump there for you, Joseph.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Jojo, how about you? If folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
I would say email would be great. I'm going to give my newest personal email, which is
that's fine.
TevaCrowley@gmail.com. That's my real name, is Teva. That's TevaCrowley@gmail.com.
Okay.
I would give my OCC one, but it gets a little confusing and hairy with their OCC emails are slightly different than my OCC email. I don't have the OCC in it, so
I experienced some of that difficulty. Roseanne, how about you? How do people get in touch with you? Because I guarantee you people are going to want to get in touch with you folks to find out more about this curriculum, what you're doing, all the exciting things you've mentioned.
No, that's great. My email is rakings, KINGS @gmail.com. So
that's an easy one.
Pretty simple. Yeah.
Listen, I'm so glad that we were all able to get on. We're going to do this again. We're going to do it one-on-one, however we can do it. We got to keep the word and the mission alive. And I think what you folks are doing, and I'm glad that we at FRAMECAD, and I'm going to say it, have finally found and embraced what you folks are doing and really going to try to push this forward with your help and at least from me, thank you. It makes my job a whole lot easier. So we're going to talk again real soon. But for now, you've all built it the old way. Now let's go build it better. We'll see you next time.